Welcome to KPD Unlimited Today, where we talk about all things interesting. The North Hollywood Shootout. A police shootout refers to an armed confrontation between law enforcement officers and suspects, in which both sides exchange gunfire. Shootouts can occur during high-risk situations as hostage rescues, drug raids, and pursuit of dangerous criminals. They can be extremely dangerous and deadly, and often require special training and equipment to handle. Shootouts are generally considered a last resort for law enforcement officers, as they aim to minimize the risk of injury or death to both the suspect and the officers involved. However, in situations where there is an immediate threat to public safety or officer safety, police may be forced to use deadly force to neutralize the threat. The North Hollywood Shootout was a violent confrontation that occurred on February 28, 1997, between two heavily armed bank robbers and law enforcement officers in North Hollywood, California. The two robbers, Larry Eugene Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu, were equipped with body armor and automatic weapons, including AK-47s and armor-piercing ammunition. The incident began when Phillips and Matasareanu robbed the North Hollywood Bank of America branch, taking more than $300,000 in cash. As they exited the bank, they were confronted by LAPD officers who had been alerted to the robbery. The robbers opened fire on the officers, sparking a massive shootout that lasted over 40 minutes. Emil Matasareanu was one of the two bank robbers involved that day. He was born in Romania in 1966 and later immigrated to the United States with his family. Matasareanu worked as a machinist and had no prior criminal record before he and his partner, Larry Eugene Phillips Jr., decided to rob the Bank of America branch in North Hollywood. Matasareanu was described as the more passive of the two robbers, with Phillips being the more aggressive and dominant. During the robbery, Matasareanu and Phillips wore body armor and carried assault rifles, including AK-47s, and they fired more than 1,100 rounds of ammunition at police officers who responded to the scene. Matasareanu was shot multiple times by police and died from his injuries. Larry Eugene Phillips Jr. was the other bank robber involved in the shooting on that day. He was born in California in 1970 and had a history of criminal activity prior to the robbery. Phillips was described as the more aggressive and dominant of the two robbers, while his partner, Matasareanu, was more passive. During the robbery, Phillips and Matasareanu wore body armor and carried assault rifles, including AK-47s. Phillips and Matasareanu had reportedly spent months planning the North Hollywood bank robbery and had obtained military-style weapons and armor from various sources. After the shootout, Phillips was found to have suffered fatal gunshot wounds, which were self-inflicted. It is believed that he took his own life rather than surrender to law enforcement. During the shootout, Phillips and Matasareanu fired more than 1,100 rounds of ammunition and wounded 11 officers, with 7 civilians being injured. The police officers were initially outgunned, but they were eventually able to obtain more powerful weapons and ammunition from a nearby gun store. Eventually, both robbers were shot and killed by police. The North Hollywood Shootout was a wake-up call for law enforcement agencies across the country, leading to changes in police tactics, equipment, and training. It also spurred a national debate on the availability of military-grade weapons and armor-piercing ammunition to civilians. The North Hollywood Shootout was one of the most violent and intense police shootouts in American history, and had a significant impact on law enforcement training and equipment. Don't forget to subscribe and like to the channel so you can continue to see more great content.